They thought they were going to die. That was the fear on board the train when the knife rampage began on Saturday evening. Passengers running through carriages to escape.
Yeah, until, of course, they ran out of train. They say they were desperately trying to get the train, which was bound for King's Cross, to stop, and it eventually did at 7:50 at Huntingdon Station.
Amira Ostalski was in the same carriage as the attacker when the violence began. Coach Jay picking up a metal tray from a catering trolley to protect herself as she fled away from the attacker.
Amira joins us now. And we can also speak to taxi driver Viral Tortorica, who saw the suspect shouting, kill me," as he was being arrested in the car park next to the platform. So thank you both for joining us in the wake of what was such a traumatic experience. Amira, you were in the carriage where the attacker was. Mm-hmm. Tell us what happened.
So I was sitting in carriage J. Mm-hmm. Me and my friend, we boarded the train from Grantham going to King's Cross. And we just listened to music, having a normal time, you know. I didn't suspect anything at that time. And I saw, like, 5 rows ahead of me on the left, a guy in a white T-shirt just leapt out of his seat out of nowhere. He... At that point, I didn't realise what was going on because I've never seen anyone being attacked like that before. And then everyone was saying on that train, screaming, he's got a knife, he just stabbed him.
So you were in the same carriage as the attacker?
Yes, 2 metres from him, honestly, yeah.
But when you got onto the train, he wasn't on the train because he got on at Peterborough.
Yes, no, I got on Grantham, so that's before that, yeah.
Yeah, so this attacker gets on, but you didn't see the knife or anything until this young man in a white T-shirt jumps up and said, and did he say, I've been...
No, it was someone else that said it, yeah.
And so do you think he was sitting in the carriage, the man with the knife, before he suddenly started the attack?
I don't know, honestly. I don't think I can comment on that because all I remember is being a bit confused why this man just leapt out of his seat,
Yeah. So this poor guy jumps out of his seat. He's clearly been stabbed. Mm-hmm. There's panic in the carriage. What did you then do?
Well, me and my friend, we immediately panicked and we started running into the carriage G, which as I recall, which was the buffet area. But remember, before we passed that, we had the toilet. So I remember saying to this Ukrainian family, go hide in the toilet because they've got a little 6-year-old boy with them. And because they heard me screaming, for my own safety, they asked me what was going on, so I told them. But honestly, like, I'm still shaken to this day. I don't think this would happen to me. Like, you see it on the news, and obviously you feel bad, but you don't think it would actually happen to you.
And did the Ukrainian family go into the toilet, lock themselves in the toilet as a result of you saying that?
Yes.
Well, that's incredible. So you protected that family from the attacker. You then carry on running.
Yes, we carry on running, and people are getting trampled on. Think about the time. It's a very busy train. Most of the seats are occupied. So people are getting trampled on. I remember dropping my phone at one time, and I'm trying to pick it up, and I'm getting pushed. But obviously nothing happened to me, thank God.
And had you left all your bags and belongings where you were sitting? You just left it all?
Yes, my passport there, my keys are there, all my belongings are there.
But it was such a sense of panic, you just had to run.
No, obviously, when you're in that point, you don't really care about your belongings. You just want to run away for your own personal safety.
You get to the buffet. Is that where you grabbed
I grabbed
this metal tray?
Yeah, so I grabbed a metal tray. I know it sounds a bit stupid now, but I just wanted something in my hands to protect myself.
I don't think it sounds stupid at all.
Because if I had a knife, I don't want it stabbing my vital organs, at least, you know.
Yeah.
And I just remember that...
Did you see the attacker? Is he within your eye line?
Yes, but I'll be honest, like, now I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure he even had a beard. Like, you know, when you go back and think, what did I see? I just remember him being a black man, wearing a black hoodie and black
Did you
garments.
see the knife?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm still...
of course you are.
Yes, sorry. But when I was in the buffet area, it was the sense of not knowing where he was.
Did you think he was behind you? Did you think he was running towards you? Could you feel a presence?
No, so I remember he ran in the opposite direction.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Towards
and then
first class, that would be.
Yes, I think so, yeah. And then
The front of the train.
he came back to us, yeah, to the back of the train, and that's when people got stabbed, yeah. And then I remember finally one of the conductors managed to open the door. It was just it was a dark black man, older, but very nice. He kind of tried to make sure that everyone was okay. I remember everyone next to me crying. They're saying, "Oh, he's come back, that's it." And it's the sense of claustrophobia when you know that the doors aren't opening. It took 8 minutes for the train to stop. And think about it, at that time, the 8 minutes don't feel like 8 minutes.
No.
So I remember I come out of the train, I'm running with my friend, and there's a guy next to me running, holding his arm because he's bleeding out, saying, "I got stabbed." And he was right next to me. And that's what the scary part is. And then when we come out of the station, I think that we're safe. I see a guy dressed all in black, again, climbing the wooden fence and heading right directly to us. And that's when me and the Ukrainian family, again, hid in the taxi. And I remember I was speaking to her, trying to calm her down because she thought that her teenage son got stabbed, but he was covered in someone else's blood.
Oh, my goodness.
Goodness.
Well, VRL, you were there at the station waiting to pick somebody up. What did you see?
Being on the position where I was very close to the station where is the car park. Suddenly I see people starting running away in a certain direction, to say like that. And I found myself like alone, to say like that, in the car, waiting, and I didn't know what's going on. And obviously I put the window down to hear something or like to understand what's going on, why the people are running. And a couple seconds later I saw like a lot of police coming towards the station, getting inside the station, and some people from the train station with orange vests. They was pointing somehow towards the area where I was parked, to say like that. And the police start running towards this direction. And like when I moved my head to the right, I just saw the man with the knife. So he was surrounded very, very quick by the police, and obviously the police used tasers, I think, and like they arrest him very, very quick.
Gosh.
So you saw the police taser this man in the car park?
Yes. I mean, like I think I have like I made a short video about that, and they react very quick. They arrest him. They first of all they ask him to drop the knife. He didn't comply, and after like repeated like orders to drop the knife, they tased him. So like he was like on the ground, and like very, very quick handcuffs on, and arrested.
What did he say when he was being arrested, VRL?
So at the point where he was surrounded by the police, like he was still standing with the knife in his hand, and the police was ordering him to drop the knife, he was asking to be killed. So I think he repeated like 3-4 times in a row, like, "Kill me, kill me, kill me."
It's a very distressing thing to see. How are you feeling this morning, having witnessed that?
I mean, it looked like part of a movie, to say like that. I mean, at that moment, I didn't really understand or absorbed the gravity of the situation, or the fact that I was like a couple meters away from the person. But later on, when I see the amount of police and ambulances which there were there, and like I heard how many people was affected by this situation, I understand how badly is the situation.
And of course, VRL, that train would not normally stop at Huntington, the big mainline train going to London. That would have been a surprise. What happened afterwards for you. Did you end up taking a fare? Did you give people lifts who'd come off that train?
Like I've said, I was booked at that moment, and I saw my passenger running away on the other side. So after the arrest, I tried to get in contact again with my passenger, and I had to somehow surround the city because everything was blocked. So I went to pick her up from the other side of the station.
VRL, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Amira, how are you feeling this morning? Because you've suffered a terrible shock and trauma, and of course you were just meters away from...
So I saw the suspect getting detained and tasered as well. So my friend actually took the photo that you showed on TV, and honestly, at that moment I felt relieved that he got caught, but the distance between me and him was shockingly scary for me, and now I don't think I can sit on a train again. I'll be honest, I don't think I can. Maybe in some time I will, but I'm quite a confident person. Now I've got this social anxiety that I never had before, so that's something new that I need to learn how to cope with.
And Amira, you'll be, I'm sure, relieved to know that the train worker, who is last night in a very critical condition, is stable this morning. I mean, they are so brave, these train workers, put themselves on the line to save people like you, and luckily, good news that he's now stable.
Honestly, that's so relieving to hear. I really hope he gets better soon.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for being with us. It's been reported that an innocent man was tasered on the platform at Huntingdon Station as police officers were trying to apprehend the man who was responsible. Andy Trotter worked for British Transport Police for 10 years. He joins us now. Very good morning to you, Andy Trotter. I mean, just describe for us what those police officers would be dealing with at that moment. They just took only 8 minutes for them to get to the station because of the quick thinking of the train driver who manages to divert the train to a station he wasn't expecting to be at. Then you've got the police officers arriving at the scene. Just talk us through what they're facing at that point.
Well, as you say, it was an excellent response by the driver and by Cambridgeshire Police, and the decision taken to go into Huntingdon, meaning that the assets, the police could get there extremely quickly and deal with it. And they've been facing a very confusing situation, as these things often are, with terrified passengers quite naturally, getting various reports from different people about who the suspects were. But they went into action very quickly, and they detained 2 suspects, one of whom we now know has been released. So I think it was a very good response from the police services and from Network Rail and from that driver all the way around.
So many acts of heroism. Just on the point that we were just discussing in the introduction to this interview, it appears that an innocent man was tasered, and according to reports in the Mail Online, screaming, "It's not me." How could that have happened?
Well, I think anyone could imagine the chaotic scenes that were there, that you've got panicked passengers, people screaming, pointing, getting confused about who was the suspect and who wasn't the suspect. In those times, people make lots and lots of mistakes, and that's, I think, totally understandable. And the police would have to be very, very careful to make sure that they haven't got someone that's running around with a knife and take decisive action in the circumstances they've got. I know no more of the details than you do as far as this is concerned, but it is not... one can understand in those circumstances how one could make a decision like that in a split second to save lives. And whilst taser is very uncomfortable and very unpleasant, there are usually no lasting effect. So it's unfortunate, but there we are. The officers were dealing with a very, very challenging situation, and they were trying to make sure that no one else got stabbed or killed.
Yeah.
But it was a challenging situation. The suspect arrested and still in custody was a 32-year-old black man. We believe that the innocent man who was arrested, which we believe, and the Mail Online reports, was also tasered, was also a 35-year-old black man of Caribbean descent. The officers making split-second decisions will now be deeply upset to know that they used the taser against the wrong person. But I guess it's a good thing that it was a taser they were using, which doesn't have lasting damage, although hugely traumatic for the innocent person who would have received that terrible shock.
Yes, it is unfortunate that an innocent person would be tasered in those circumstances. But as I said, you can imagine the terrified passengers shouting out who the suspect was, pointing to different people, police arriving on the platform with very, very little information, having to take a split-second decision to take action in order to save lives. And I can understand how these things can happen in those circumstances.
This morning, the Transport Secretary said that there would be extra police presence at key train stations and certain services. We'd been reporting a little bit earlier that hadn't appeared to have been rolled out yet. We've now got images from, this is King's Cross Station, where there is a police presence which has begun. But what do you think, as somebody who used to be a Chief Constable at British Transport Police, about levels of policing? I mean, if you're on a train and someone has a knife, you would want a police officer on your train, but it would be completely unoperable to have a police officer on every train, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. You know, one can obviously want more resources, and I think there is a case for looking at the staffing numbers for not only British Transport Police, but also for the security staff that work for the railway companies as well. And I think there's a real concern at the moment, generally, notwithstanding this dreadful event, that people want to feel safe and secure on trains. They want to feel safe and secure at railway stations. And I think people want to see visible security of whatever sort to protect people when they're going about their business. So I hope what comes from this is a deeper review of security, not only in relation to these sorts of events, but in relation to everyday safety and security on the transport system.
Can I ask you about those staffing issues, and not just security staffing? 55% of passengers travelling on trains in the UK today, on average, are travelling in a driver-only operated train. Mick Whelan, who is the General Secretary of the Train Drivers Union, ASLEF, says the train drivers who do that hate it. It feels unsafe. We believe it's inherently unsafe. What is your view as a former Chief Constable, a transport policing expert? Is it safe to have trains where only the driver is operating the train? And we know that the individual who is in a critical but stable condition was an employee on the train, not driving the train. If you didn't have people like that on trains, is that unsafe?
I would like to see more staff on trains, and we know that our rail staff face daily abuse and assault. You know, the figures are quite staggering and shameful that they face these sort of behaviours that they do every day. And I think not only as a former Chief Constable, but as a passenger, I regularly use the trains. I like to see more staff. I think everybody would want to see more staff. We know there's cost involved in that, but public safety really matters. And I think people want to feel safe and secure. And I do hope that we have a closer look at this. We know that the budget for British Transport Police is under enormous pressure. And we know that the railway companies are forever trying to cut costs. And we don't want to pay more for our tickets or pay for more income tax. But I think there's a real challenge here. And I think it's a wider question about how safe do we feel? Are we satisfied with the level of security that we get from the police, from the railway companies when we go travelling on our trains, and particularly when people are travelling late at night when they feel very vulnerable?
Thank you. I'm afraid we have to leave it there, but we really appreciate your time. Former Chief Constable of British Transport Police, Andy Trusser, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Meanwhile, it has been reported that an innocent man was mistakenly tasered on the platform at Huntingdon Station while police hunted for the attacker. We're joined by former Police and Crime Commissioner Festus Akinboye-Soya and former Met Police Officer Dal Babu. Thank you both very much indeed for joining us. Festus, what is your response to what happened and how we can feel safer? Because anyone travelling by train today, I mean, apart from the fact we've had this breaking news about a derailment now declared a major incident, and we don't know what the circumstances of that are, but anyone travelling on a train will think, how safe am I? How do we make it safer?
I think, generally speaking, if you look at the numbers overall, travelling by train is quite safe in Britain. And so this kind of occurrence is very, very rare. Thank goodness for that. And I think that's down to the fact that we have, security officers, we have police operatives, you have, different people on the railway network who are doing a fantastic job to keep all of us safe. But nonetheless, that perception of not being safe is spreading. We see the amount of assaults on women on trains that has increased. The trade unions that represent railway workers have also complained recently about the amount of assaults taking place on railways. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do, including, of course, bringing back more of these officers who can actually be patrolling, not necessarily police officers, because I don't think we have enough police officers to do all of that. And I'm a big supporter of stop and search. I'm a big supporter of things like knife arches at railway stations, but we might be able to talk about that later on.
Dal Babu, stop and search, should it be employed more widely? Would stop and search have stopped this individual? And what about security arches? Why not introduce airport-style security or measures closer to that at our rail stations?
Well, Susanna, this is an exceptionally rare occurrence, horrific as it is. I think we've got to be practical. It's really, really important that we don't have any knee-jerk reaction. Stop and search is not going to be the answer to this.
Why not?
Because who's going to do the stop and search, and how those of us that commute by train or tube will know how incredibly busy this is. How are you going to do that? How are you practically going to stop people? How are you going to ensure people go through knife arches? So I think some of the solutions might be more sort of facial recognition technology. But we also have to remember that the rail companies are funded privately. The British Transport Police is funded from the rail companies. And so there's something about what is the priorities of these rail companies? Are they putting profit before our own safety? Should we be having more of their staff? Should they be paying more money to British Transport Police to have more police officers? So I think that's where I think I'd be really interested in.
The head of the RMT, the Train Workers Union, Mick Lynch, says that the expansion of driver-operated only trains is making our railways less safe, secure and accessible. I mean, it's pretty hard to have a police officer on every train, but if it's driver-operated only, I mean, is that safe?
I mean, I would prefer to have guards, and I think I've just been listening to what you've been saying, and the guard on the train seems to have been the person that saved multiple lives.
And put himself in the line of danger, was in a critical but stable condition the last time.
Yeah.
Well, the driver separately is diverting the train to the station. But they had different roles to play. They're not the same role.
Exactly. And I think there was an exercise, as I understand, where British Transport Police had actually done an simulation exercise, and the train had arrived at a sort of isolated place, and they actually took it to a rail station on this occasion. So you're absolutely right. These are different roles. So I think we really need to be asking some questions around what are the railway companies prioritising? Is it about profit, or is it about having more people? Because certainly my daughter travels on the railways all the time. And I did think, and she uses that line, I've used that line quite often, I think I would be much more confident in having a person there. Not, as you said, police officers, I don't think that's practical, but certainly rail guards, rail staff, not just a driver.
Festus, you are a former police and crime commissioner.
Yes.
We know that 2 individuals were arrested. The 32-year-old black man is still in custody, but a second man who was held, I believe, overnight. It's reported in the Mail online that he was tasered. It's turned out that he was an innocent man. He's now been released. As a police crime commissioner, how do you go about investigating and holding the police to account? Clearly, it was a very, very fraught and difficult circumstance, but an innocent man, it's reported, was tasered.
And of course, this is still speculation at the moment, so it's not been fully confirmed as far as I'm aware. And the use of force by police officers should quite rightly be scrutinised by the mayors or police and crime commissioners, in terms of how those powers are being used. Unfortunately, in these kind of cases, the police have to only rely on the intelligence that they are given. And from what I've heard, the calls that came in indicates that there might have been more than one person. And so matching the description, they have to follow the intelligence that they were provided. Remember, they had 8 minutes from the 999 call coming in to them being on the scene, which is quite extraordinary when you think about it, because it could have been a lot longer than that. But thankfully, those officers were there in time and they had to act. But thankfully, in this case, you know, there were no fatalities so far, thank goodness. But I'm sure in terms of dealing with this situation with this man, explaining to him what happened and what kind of recompense would be made, I'm sure that will be dealt with by the necessary police force.
Although I think what I would say, because I think the police did do an extraordinary job, I think you end up, the suspect is black, the person that's been tasered has been, innocent person, allegedly, who's been tasered, is also black. So I think, I appreciate, I mean, I was a firearms gold commander, I know how chaotic these kind of situations are, but I think inevitably there'll be sections of the community and some people will be asking, well, you've got a black suspect who should have been quite rightly detained, but you've also got an innocent black person who has been traumatised on the train. Yeah. We don't know if he's been injured. We don't know what he would have seen, and yet he's had this allegedly double trauma of he's been tasered there. So there will inevitably. I don't think we should shy away from asking the police some very, very difficult questions around why, what was the intelligence, and as Fester says, they would have had that intelligence and they would have had to deal with things very quickly.
I just want to ask, Dal, because you said that stop and search would be hard to carry out. I just can't help feeling you have a man, if anyone who's seen the pictures will see the size of the knife that he was carrying. And if you are on the train in an enclosed space with that man, you are in fear that you're going to be killed, put frankly. And we are so lucky that no one was. Why do you think stop and search is not the answer? Because I think anybody would think, if that guy had been stopped and searched, that knife would have been taken off him and would have been arrested.
I think it's the practicalities of it, you know, and I think it's really important that we don't sort of rush into any decision-making here. Now, who will carry out the stop and search? We've already seen that the police numbers have been reduced.
So you think there aren't enough British Transport Police at stations to carry out stop and search?
It's the practicalities, because we can all say we need knife arches, we need more stop and search, but who's going to do it? Who's going to fund it?
So simply a staffing problem.
But a knife arch is not a matter of practicality. You know, there are many different types of knife arches nowadays that are not intrusive. You know, if you're going to walk through through a ticket barrier, right? Why can't you walk through a knife arch? That is not an impractical thing. But also in terms of stop and search, this idea that we can't do it because it's impractical, I don't really buy that. You know, we're talking about what actually happens on the train. What about stopping the problem before it gets on the train? And that is where things like stop and searches, and that's where things like knife arches come into play.
We have thousands of stations.
Correct.
And huge numbers of journeys every day. You as the Police Crime Commissioner, if you're given the choice, do I have more police officers on the beat, or do I spend the money instead on a knife arch for every station in the country? Which do you choose?
Well, look, there's no matter of either or, because the reality is this: one actually makes the job of the police a lot easier. Okay, so by being able to work smarter, not just harder. So I think there are technologies out there now that can actually help to make people feel safer. But bottom line is, people don't feel safe. And if we want them to go on the trains, we've got to help them feel safer.
Thank you both very much indeed, and we'll talk to the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexandra, in just a few minutes.